Hey, World Entertainment, and we've made it to episode 3 of Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 2. A good episode, another strong episode. I think so far this season has been much better than the first season, and I really enjoyed the first season, so that's saying a lot. Not a lot of the monsters this time around, but it's much more in this story, like this episode. Progressing issues with the characters, the kind of ramifications of Titan X being out there, and Apex showing back up. And Apex shows up and takes over the ship. So the ship is docked now in Tokyo, and Apex shows up and has been given control of the ship. They say temporarily, but who knows. And basically Monarch has been sidelined a little bit. So Kate goes back to San Francisco. You know, she's leaving, which May has an issue with. So May seems to need Kate there. So Kate goes back to San Francisco. May and Tim come up with a plan for her to accept the job offer from Apex to basically be a mole for Tim in there. And she discovers that they've been keeping track of them pretty much all along and stuff. While Keiko, Shaw, Kentaro, and Hiroshi, I believe is the name. I can never quite get the names right. They're out in Tokyo, and they've come up with a plan to... They figured out, okay, Titan X is obviously using sound, so if he could have another device that could amplify the sound, they could lure Titan X away from populations and back out to sea. So they're like, yeah, we had one of those, but it got destroyed by Kong on Skull Island. And Hiroshio says, well, actually I have another one that he built. It was a test one in his lab in Tokyo. So him and Kentaro are going to get a part they need for it, and Shaw and Keiko are going to go to his offices to find blueprints or something. I can't quite remember exactly what that was. And this is where Keiko is starting to find out that, because she sees the photos of Hiroshi's family, which obviously is Kentaro on one side and Kate on the other side, and she's like, do they have different mothers? And Shaw's like, yeah. And she's like, is he widowed, divorced? And Shaw realizes, she doesn't know that he's married twice, and he's like, yeah, that's not my story to tell you. And we're seeing the kind of things where they're working together and kind of having this back and forth to where it comes from back in the past. So obviously in the past, we ended last week's episode with Titan X arriving to the area in Chile that they are. So they see the little bug thing. They finally have given these things a name. They're calling them scarbs. So that's what they say they are, scarbs. And they all go into the water. Now, remember I said this before, and you'll probably see the images, that Titan X, when he comes out of the water, his light is red. There's like light on him and it's red. And so is it on the little scarbs. It was blue. But they go in, there's like hundreds of them in the water with them, and you get this shot of them all underwater. And they must be communicating to each other, because Titan X turns back blue, and then so do the Scarps, and then he comes up out of the water again. Great visuals on him again. Like, the fact as well that he's in water and the water's dripping off him and stuff. Fantastic visuals on Titan X. But it turns around and leaves, and you're kind of like, what is the connection between Titan X and these Scarp things? Like, are they a part of him? Or what is the connection? You know, there's something with these that I'm sure they're going to explain later on. But as of now, it's kind of like, are they a part of them? Like, are these its kids? What are they to Titan X? So, while they're standing there, all the villagers come out and they realize, yeah, we're still in trouble here. And Keiko had started taking photos of Titan X as it's leaving, so they want the camera. But they're like saying to each other, like, you know, they're definitely not going to let us leave even if we give them the camera. And one of them attacks them with a knife, and he slices Keiko's arm. He actually stabs Lee in just under, I assume, the kidney area. And Shaw disarms him and holds the knife to his neck so they can try and get away from the villagers. And they go on the run and hide. And Shaw takes out the film but leaves the camera. And they're almost caught, But the woman who kind of showed them the cave, she spots them and knows where they are, but doesn't say anything. So, and they find a cabin and they like take shelter in that cabin, and they end up hooking up. So this is where you're finding out how complicated the relationship is with these two. Is that obviously she's with Billy. They've already kissed before in the first season, but now they hook up, and then Billy comes back and gets them off the island. They're kind of, she writes to Shaw, this is all in the past, she writes to Shaw saying, I love you and I always will, and stuff like that, but Bill has my heart and stuff, and what happened with us can never happen again. It would break Billy and blah blah blah, and you know, the two of us love him so much, too much to let that happen, and all this. And she ends it by saying like, forever you're K. So he kind of turns to the bottle, but then we're finding out that Billy discovered that letter, and Hiroshio tells his mother, like, he starts trying to explain that things have happened with different women and blah blah blah, and he kind of breaks down that Bill left him. So when Keiko got lost down in that world between worlds area, and then of course Shaw vanished as well, he got stuck. It was Billy and young Hiroshi, who was only 11 at the time, and Hiroshi says to his mother, do you realize why I have this accent? Because obviously they were living in America, so it's like, why does he have the Japanese accent when speaking in English and stuff? And he says, he sent me away when I was 11. And she's like, there's no way he would have done that. And it was like, that's what he did. He got so obsessed with the monsters that he abandoned Hiroshi when he was 11 and sent him away. So you're seeing all these type of things happening where it really is delving into the characters and like what their motives are and why these motives are there and stuff like that. And at the same time, Kate is still blaming herself for releasing Titan X and stuff. So she's about to go, like, we see her arrive home and you see San Francisco. This is actually one of the first times we've really seen San Francisco, where you're seeing what's left of the city. There's like vegetation growing on a lot of the buildings, but you can also see that they are rebuilding the city. And later on, we get a fantastic shot actually of the San Francisco, the Golden Gate Bridge, where they're rebuilding the missing section for where Godzilla walked through it. But she goes to meet friends. She obviously arrives home, sees her mother, and the guy who her mother's with now, I don't actually remember him in the first season. He probably was there, I just don't recall him. But she kind of has a conversation about them. She's not telling them exactly what's out there and what she's experienced, but she has told them that there is another world with these things in it. So they're like, hey, maybe you should go and meet up with your friends. And she does go to meet up with her friends, but decides, actually, I want to go somewhere else. And she goes to a club and starts getting drunk and meets up with a girl she knows and almost hooks up. And an alarm goes off. A warning, a Titan warning. And it's a Monarch warning that, and it's on the news, Titan X is spotted now off the coast. So everyone's freaking out. And of course, Kate's like, hey, don't worry about it. It's nothing. And the girl's like, what do you mean it's nothing? Like, it's a Titan alert, like, we gotta go. And she's like, it's not. And she's trying to explain, like, oh, it's my fault. And she's basically out there getting hammered and stuff because she's guilty of letting Titan X out. And this is where she kind of goes into the restricted area in San Francisco and ends up seeing the bridge and has flashbacks of the day Godzilla walked through the bridge, and she of course lost the bus full of the school kids and stuff. So that's the only shot of Godzilla in this episode, is that flashback of when he's going through the bridge. And other than that, there's no monster except for the image of, well, your full view of Titan X in the past at the beginning, and the shot of him on the TV in the news. So that's the only real shots of any Titans in this episode. But as I said, it delves a lot more into what's happening with the characters. So you have like Hiroshi, he's glad his mother is back, but at the same time he's almost resenting her because she vanished looking for the monsters, and then Bill abandoned them to look for monsters and all this type of stuff. Lee, of course, is, you know, struggling with the idea if Keiko was back, you know, and they were almost an item and stuff like that. And, you know, and Tim and May are setting up this plan to infiltrate Apex. And I forgot to say the device that they're going to set up to set off that sound to try and track Titan X, Apex stole it. So that's where May discovers that they've been following them all along. But again, even without the Titans, because you're not going to have Titans in every single episode, at least not throughout the episode, I still think it was a really good episode and really did start breaking down a lot of the relationships and the frame of mind that these people are now in, with the realization that these things are out there, they've seen what they've seen, they've been where they've been and stuff like that. So I really liked this episode again. So if you've seen it, what do you think of it as well? So do let me know. And of course, it's only a matter of time before Godzilla does show up in this thing. So with that, I shall leave it there for this one. So do like and share and subscribe and all that good stuff. Cheers, and I shall catch you in the next one.